Okay. Share it. Boot. Gotta get the word out. Self-promoting because I can. Okay. Alrighty, there we go. I'm gonna wait a few moments before really getting into it. Car outside, could you please be incredibly quiet? Yeah, and to wait until some people hopefully join. Can wait a little bit longer. Going to wait until this hits 5 minutes and then I'm going to start. Well, no matter if people are here or not, because quite frankly, I don't care. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Alright, I'm not waiting any longer. So, first things first, to explain hiatus. The main reason why I went on to hiatus is because I got sick at the time, and I didn't want to work while I was indefinitely and incredibly sick. Not sick in a very bad way, just that when you have a sore throat and it hurts to talk, swallow, eat, drink, all of those lovely things, even breathe in some cases, you don't really want to stand up in front of a camera and talk all day. So that's kind of why I went off on hiatus in the first place. Um, Secondary reason on why hiatus lasted so long, school started and I didn't feel like continuing work on a lot of stuff. So, hence, super long hiatus for no real explanation. Now, on to the actual reason I'm doing this video, and that is to explain what I've actually been working on, uh, besides not being sick. Woohoo! So, for those who didn't know from the last stream, and even to those who do know who might need a more proper explanation, I've been working on a card game for a while now, and recently I've been working on it a lot more. That last stream that I did at the start of this week on Monday, that stream was basically us just brainstorming ideas for cards and stuff. Um, to explain, it's just an easier way to do it, and figured we could stream it. Forgot what I was gonna say. Man, I just put myself at a loss for words. Woo! Anyways, we've been working on this card game. Devs include me, the Situai. The Situai was another guy who was on the stream. Monster Asylum. He was the third guy who came. Well, I guess second guy if you don't count me, who came onto the stream and started talking about like halfway through. Hello, Big Gru. I'm assuming that's how that's pronounced. Big Gru. Greetings. So, continuing on what I was saying, yeah, that's what I've been working on with our team of devs. And that last stream was us making it. We plan on doing another one of those this Monday, starting it a bit later than it did the last time, just so that Monster Asylum could join earlier on, hopefully, or even at the start. So that's probably going to happen next Monday. At least it's planned to. So now a brief explanation on what the card game is. So the reason it's even on this channel in the first place is because it is definitely Skylanders involved. It is a Skylanders fan game. Hold on. Excuse me. As I was saying, it is a Skylanders fan game. Obviously, it's a card game that I've had the ideas for a while now, as far back as multiple years ago. Actually came up when the actual Skylanders card game first came out. Main reasoning being I found that game very disappointing. I'm not a fan of that game. Battlecast. I see it as a disappointment to the Skylanders series, and to naturally get any cards, at least for me, was very difficult unless you wanted Spitfire or Stealth Elf. So, yeah. Anyways, besides the point, I've had ideas for an actual Skylanders card game that isn't a disappointment in my eyes for a very long time, but only recently, by recently I mean within the last year, have I actually been acting on it and actually working on doing it. So, the game itself. I'm going to be explaining the rules, but right now I'm just going to be describing the overall look and feel that we are going for. So the actual game, at least the way it seemed to play out, is going to be fairly similar to, I don't know if any person has played any of these games, but it's going to be somewhere in between uh, Magic, the Gathering, that card game, Pokemon, the card game, Digimon, the card game, and then actual Skylanders. Is this about Reshix or a different card game altogether? This is about a specifically Skylanders card game that me and DCGY have been both working on. Besides Reshix, phone, be quiet. Um, yeah. So as I was saying, yeah, that's the feel we're going for. Um, it'll have its own mechanics. It's not just going to be stolen mechanics from other card games. It'll have its own mechanics, but for the main part, it'll have the like land or mana reservation feel to it that you have in Magic. It'll have the pay to do attacks thing from Pokemon. It'll also have to pay to cast a card sort of thing from Magic too. So you pay to cast a card, you pay to use an attack. You put out your lands or mana like you do in Magic, just that in this game they are called source fragments, based off of the elemental sources from Spyro's Adventure. Um, Another thing, every card will have a special ability at the bottom, or most cards, in that matter. At least every creature card. That sort of taken from Digimon in a sense. I don't know if anybody has ever played the Digimon card games or just watched the Digimon show at this point or watching this, but yeah. So with those four things in mind, it also takes a lot of inspiration from actual Skylanders. Not that god awful official Skylanders card game, but the actual stuff from the Skylanders games, and in some cases even books. If I'm going to be totally honest, uh, so not everything is obviously going to be directly stolen from the game. A lot of things will have to be manufactured originally, but as far as most creatures and Skylanders go, obviously, those are going to be assets taken from the games. In the order that the game is going to be worked on, we'll be doing it by game release. So the first game the first set of cards that we've been working on for a while now has been Spyro's Adventure. Primarily, we've talked a little bit about the stuff from the later games. For the most part, we've been working on and brainstorming for Spyro's Adventure content specifically. When the Spyro's Adventure content is we've finished working on that, then will come Giants, Magic Giants, Swap Force, Trap Team, Superchargers, Imagineer, all the way through the list. Whether or not creation on cards will continue after Imaginators, undetermined. No comment. We'll most likely have a plan by the time we get to Superchargers and Imaginators for what we'll do afterwards. If we'll just stop making cards at that point or just go off of our own thing. Don't know if anybody's heard about the promising fan game Skylanders Time Troops that's been being made as well, but we may or may not include that, honestly, if it's finished by then. If they're, original Skylanders and such from that, we may or may not make cards for that era as well. Now on to the actual play of the games, of the Skylanders game. Oh, by the way, I want to stop referring to it as the Skylanders card game, because that's not the name we settled on it for. The name of the game is Skylanders Eons of Chaos. The original, this name came from Monster Asylum, actually. We had to vote over it with a bunch of other contestants. His name suggestion won, so that is the name of the game, rightfully so. Big Gru, would Imaginators be like those Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic cards that are multiple cards that combine to make one big card? That's actually a good question. So, we haven't fully gone over how we're going to do the Imaginators yet. mainly because we've only been focusing on the Spyro's Adventure content and very little about just giants and spot force. We haven't gone much beyond that to trap teams, superchargers, imaginators. But the way I'm imagining the imaginators will work will be a sort of build your own card rather than uh, take multiple cards and put them together. As far as swappers go, it'll be a card for the bottom half and the top half. We're assuming, so that's the closest we'll probably get to that. But as far as like even more cards than that, probably not. That honestly sounds really lengthy and kind of an annoying process to put together. Mechanic wise, especially if you have your deck of cards and you keep drawing. It sounds very unlikely that you would get all the pieces if it was a lot of pieces. Anyways, as far as imaginators go, at least I'm thinking a sort of build your own card mechanics. Like you get it and it's almost like a kit. Basically, the way I'm imagining it in my mind, like just a few stickers that you can slap onto the cards. So, primary attack, choose a primary attack to put on. Secondary attack, choose a secondary attack to put on. Tertiary attack, choose a tertiary attack to put on. Soul Gem ability, choose a Soul Gem ability to put on. And then, as far as the name goes, you just slap a name on it. Whatever you come up with a thing. And, if you have an image, slap it on too. At least that's what I'm thinking. I swear I don't think of these things beforehand that much. But anyways, that is the way I would imagine we do Imagineers. Something like that. Again, not really being focused on just this moment. So as far as play of the game, so you'll have your deck. A deck is 60 cards or more. Officially, I mean, obviously you could have a 50 card deck. It just isn't an official deck, or if it probably wouldn't be accepted into any sort of tournament if this game gets that far. Um, you have your cards. There are four main classifications for cards. Well, technically three. No, yeah, four. So there are creatures. Creatures include your Skylanders, your enemies, any sort of neutral things, or NPCs. Those are your creature cards. There are item cards, which that's pretty self-explanatory. Items, any sort of like a bomb. Technically, a wall would be considered an item card. A key, a lock, all those things. Number three, spells. Spell cards include Doom Sharks or some basic healing spell. Now, obviously, there will be like basic healing spells and other things, but spell punks will still be spell punks, and they'll do their own spells as well. Maybe even for less, theoretically. And then this fourth group is a area effect cards. We don't actually have an official name for it, I don't think, but this would include elemental zone cards and level cards, which more on that later. I'm not going to get super into that right now, just because they require a bit more explaining. But as far as that goes, that's all you need to know for this explanation to make sense. Basically, you have your deck. You have however many of each card classification you decided to include. So you have your deck with all those cards. So you pull out a hand. If you have source fragments, you may put one source fragment out per turn. That is an overall rule, unless somebody plays an effect on you that says otherwise, like you can't play a source fragment on your next turn, or you use a card that's like you can play two source fragments this turn, but you can't use one later. Any sort of effects like that. Besides those, which will affect that, you will always be able to put out at least one per turn. As long as you have the card, obviously. So you have your source fragments. Source fragments go over each of the elements. So fire, water, tech, magic, earth, air, life, undead, dark, light, chaos, dark, light. I already said dark, light. Ice, electricity, and blank. Ice and electricity are two elements that we decided to add on ourselves, so that's also brand new content that will be added. And then, of course, the blank element. Yes, we did take that from the actual card game, but besides whatever it actually does in the official card game, it's just, an empty element, like a colorless in Magic. Not Magic, a colorless in Pokemon. Uh, Cryo Viper, hello, welcome to the stream. Anywho, so with your source fragments, however many you have out, and depending on the elements, on each card there will be a casting cost, except for source fragment cards, in the top right corner of the card. This will be however many symbols for whichever elements of source fragments you need to cast the card. So, for instance, let's say it costs 1 fire, 2 water. So that's 3 in total. So blanks only count as just blank. If you had a blank source fragment, it wouldn't count for any. It only counts as a blank. So you would need that 1 fire and 2 water source fragments specifically. In order to use those, or to show that you've used them, you would need to tap them. This is a term taken from Magic. Another term for it in Digimon is suspend. It's a pretty uniform sort of term used in a lot of card games. Basically, it means you turn the card to the side, and that means you can't use it again. However, Viper, it's cool to see people still talking about a game whose fan base was supposedly dead years ago. The fan base never died. It just got less strong. It is interesting, however, to see it coming back. Kind of off topic. I've heard it being whispered in school. I don't want to say whispered. I've heard conversations about it happening more and more often in school and even in public, which is very odd. I don't know why. It's seeming to come back a bit, at least to me. But yeah, Skyworld, welcome to the stream. Good to see you here. Why does my phone keep going off? Useless things? Cool. Who is this weird dude on my screen? You know who this weird dude is, Monster. Apparently Xbox is thinking of making a new one, which I'm excited about. I've never trusted the drawing a blank here. The leaks, the leak, or the conspiracy theory sort of stuff on Skylanders coming back. I've learned to stop believing in it because a lot of it has been just disappointing, especially after the stuff with I don't know if anybody has ever heard of this, but Skylanders Malfoy's Wrath. I heard about this for the first time, and I swear I thought so legitimately that it was a real thing, and Skylanders 7 was going to come out, and it was going to be awesome, until later, much later, I found out that it was something completely fan-made, just so well thought out that it was like, whew, it surprised me how well thought out it was, honestly. Like, in all seriousness, incredibly thought out. Whoever just sat down and came up with that, incredible. That's actually another candidate for stuff after Imaginators if we were to continue making cards. Skyworld, by the way, if you ever want me to give you some technical tips on streams, I can help you out. Thank you, Skyworld. If I ever have some questions about stream stuff, I will be sure to let you know. If only the games were canon with the show. Okay. Are you meaning if the show was canon to the games or the games were canon to the show? It sounds like the same thing. It sounds like I'm saying the same thing, but depending on which one you say first, it changes things. I feel like it's actually good, personally, that the games and the show are separate, because it gives something new, but it doesn't interfere with the old, if that makes sense. So the best in some series, no, do not make the games in show connected. Anyways, that's besides the point. Back to the actual focus. of this. Sorry, got a bit sidetracked there. The actual focus of the stream, as I was saying, the way that the game would play. If you have source fragments, each card will have the casting cost in the top right. You have to tap, swipe, suspend, whatever term you want to use for the game specifically. We're going to be using tap. You have to tap that many source fragments in order to play it. If you don't have that many, you can't play it. It's fairly simple. A tapped source fragment cannot be used a second time that turn. At the start of every turn, you would untap your source fragments. So if you were to play a creature card, there is actually a specific way the board would be set out for that. While it isn't entirely defined yet, the way it's been going or being imagined is a 4x3 grid of card slots for your creature cards. Now, the reason that this is important is because attacks on the cards have ranges. And this range is how many cards you can basically avoid with your attack. So, close range attack can only hit the first card. It can't hit behind it. It can't hit anything farther behind it. Mid-range can avoid one card to hit the card behind it. And a long range can avoid 2 cards to hit the card behind it. The player also counts as a slot, so if there are 3, then a long range attack, if all your slots are filled up, will never hit the player. However, a spell can still avoid all of that because it isn't a creature, it doesn't have range. It, affects whoever it affects. Welcome to the stream, Decidui. Show Skylanders card game. So most of the stuff that we've been making has been completely digital. I haven't actually I may have had the chance once or twice to print something out, but nothing's actually been printed out yet. Eventually I will do a video showcase of the game at one point, hopefully. But the currently that's not going to happen. Also, the game is still very early development. I hope you understand. I hope you all understand, not just one person. For reference, we don't even have a single element completed yet for just the first phase. So it's still very early development. That's why we even need brainstorming to be done. It's very early development. Nothing is completely set in stone here. The game could be completely different by the time the rules are fully set out. But this is the way things have been playing out so far. So, a card in a slot, if there's a card in front of it, can it go over that card despite its range? The answer to that, I'm just assuming that might be a question. The answer to that question is yes, it can still hit. Your cards do not count as creature cards that you have to go over. Originally I was thinking it would actually, very early development, like just sitting there thinking about stuff on my own before we even had other people to help brainstorming and other devs and stuff. That is, debunked. It wouldn't make sense. It'd make it overly complicated. Yeah, your cards do not count as creature slots that you have to go over. Imagine it as if, you can just walk through your own crowd, but the other crowd isn't going to let you pass them. Other army, One warrior isn't going to be able to just waltz through a whole army. However, his own army, he can, go through, especially if he's high enough rank. But, rank doesn't matter here. So, explaining stuff more on cards. At the top left, there will be the name of the card. Why are the Drow Spearmen going to have an air and life version? Okay, so good question. The Drow Spearmen mainly show up in both the air and the life segments of Sparrow's Adventure. And while you could just write them off as either air or life, if I remove them from air, then air has way fewer creatures in it. If I were to completely remove Drow, if I was just to remove Drow Spearmen, it'd be one thing. But if I was just to remove Drow Spearmen from air, then that's kind of an incomplete set. And the same thing goes for life. Excuse me. For the life, you have So in air, you have Drow Witch and Goliath Drow with the Drow Spearman to complete the set. In life, you have Blitzer Bully and Blade Witch. To not have Drow Spearman there would also be like an incomplete set. And if we were to completely remove Drow from life, again, we have that problem. Life would have too few enemies in its roster. So when, you have either one incomplete set on one side or an incomplete set on the other, you might as well just have duplicates for both. And that's another thing I'd like to address. Some cards will have versions that are either elements. It's like in Pokemon how certain cards will have a, let's say, a strong type card, but then later on they also have a version of it that's dragon type or something else along those lines. It's basically, it could be this, but it could also be this. Like most Archeans, actually. They could classify as either tech or magic. In the Spar's Adventure segment, we are going to solely count them as magic, though. But this is mainly because otherwise magic would have too few if we didn't include them in magic, and tech has too many to include a whole nother roster in its point needlessly. Oh, you guys have been talking. Sorry, I got to go. Cool hearing about this, though. Good luck making this. Thank you, Big Gru. Cryo Viper, you're right. The Skylanders fandom is basically like Slugterra fandom. Still alive, but not popular. Hey, Slugterra, I know that show. I used to watch that all the time. Off topic. Why aren't there two witches, the Drow Witch and the Blade Witch? I think you mean why are there, not why aren't there. So that's actually because they are canonically two different enemies. While visually they're basically the same, and mechanically they're very similar. The Drow Witch will throw its blade and it'll just keep shooting. It won't come back. The Blade Witch can throw its blade and it'll come back. The Blade Witch also has a shield, while the Drow Witch does not, which basically means that you can hit the Drow Witch whenever. But the Blade Witch, and this is in the games, not even the card game that we've been making, Eons of Chaos. The Blade Witch has a shield up until the Blade Witch throws her blade. Then the shield is down until the blade comes back. Those are the only real mechanical differences between the two. Otherwise, they visually look the same, unless you're playing the Wii version, in which case a Blade Witch will have more green skin and a bit more of a red color scheme. I don't actually know if the red shows up on a Drow Witch. I'm red green colorblind, so I may have been seeing it as green this whole time and been wrong. I always find heavy enemies to be really easily dealt with Stealth Elf. Same thing with really any quick Skylander or any quick attacking Skylander, like Trigger Happy, Chop Chop, Terrafin. A lot of those Skylanders can make quick work of the big guys just because they're slow. Yes, they deal a lot of damage if you do happen to get hit by them, but for the most part, you're not going to, and they aren't going to be that big of a problem. So, yeah, don't make all the Archean magic. You have to have some variety, bro. They aren't always going to be magic. In the Spouse Adventure section, they will all be magic. But in Giants, Swap Force, so on and so forth, they will not all be magic. The only reason they will only be magic for this game specifically, or this segment of the game specifically, is just because that would give the tech element too much. And if we were to completely exclude them from the magic elements, it gives the magic element way too little. And personally, I think the magic element, even alone, has way too little in comparison to a lot of the other ones. So does fire. Fire and magic seem to have way less, in my opinion, compared to the other elements. That might just be like some sort of optical illusion I'm playing on myself, but it seems to be that way. Once you start selling the game, how much are you going to sell it for? I honestly don't think we will be selling it. Or, legitimately selling it. Obviously, in case you didn't notice, this isn't exactly the factory setting you would make some cards in. We are planning on making a digital forefront for the game. so that you can play it digitally online, hopefully online, that is. So there is that to look forward to. In fact, there's even a soundtrack in the works. But this is completely a fan game. Personally, I would feel wrong making profit off of a fan game. I don't know about you guys, but that seems kind of wrong to me personally. Especially, it isn't a property that we own. We shouldn't be making profit off of selling it. And this is more of a fan thing than anything else. Is honestly, this game has two big priorities. Number one, relieve the fans of waiting and only having so much to work with. Give them something new. And number two, hopefully bring some publicity back to the game after so long. It might even bring, you know, cause some. If it was to draw attention from Microsoft and Activision, that would be like the pinnacle of this game's purpose, or at least one of the two. The other one would be to help gain publicity to Skylanders and bring it back in, and also give the fans something new to work with. Because I don't know about the rest of the fans, but me personally, yes, the games, they're wonderful, but you can only replay them 1,053 times. All right. After that, it gets a bit redundant. Hmm. If only Activision didn't start working on COD. Oh, Call of Duty. I don't know if you knew this, but they can work on two games at once. Also, I don't think this game is getting out anytime soon. This is definitely something that's going to uh, be a build up. This is something that's going to be in the works for a while, I feel. It's not going to be done anytime soon. Plenty of workshopping needs to be done before I can even say that it's close to completion. Personally. Anyways, back on topic on how to play the game. Jesus, that went off on a huge tangent there. So, anyways, so your creature cards, they'll have an image right underneath the name. If it's a Skylander card, right beside the name there will be a level. So the way this works, your Skylander cards can actually level up. The leveled up versions of the cards are separate cards that you will also have to find in your deck. Now, mind you, you can play the leveled up cards on their own, they'll just be more expensive than the level 1 cards. And leveling up, while it will cost a few source fragments, it'll cost less than to just outright play the card on its own. Generally just one less, though. The levels go up by 5s. In the future, like when we get to Giants and Swap Force, I'm thinking that we have it go up by the same intervals. So starting at level 1, then go up to half, then get to the top level cap for that game. So when we get to Giants, it'll most likely be level 1 to level 15, and instead of having it be 1, 5, 10, 15, going up by 5 still, it'll just be 1, then like either 7 or 8, or 6, or what's the middle of 15? The center of 15 is... I don't know. I think it is 7.5, actually. Yeah, it is. Yeah, so it'll either be up to 7 or up to 8. We'll probably round up. So it'll go 1, 8, 15 for Giants, and in Spot Force, it'll go 1, 10, 20. As far as that. Earth Element Chompy. Yeah, separate all the Chompy variants. Yes, we are separating all the Chompy variants into their respected elements. Normal Chompy will be life. Monster Asylum happens to have a unique card only to himself, which is an Earth Element Normal Chompy. Crunchers will be Earth Elements. frigid chompies, water. Actually, they might be ice. Come to think of it, they should probably be ice. Maybe both, honestly. In Fuego Chompies fire, we have all that. We have all that covered. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. Ooh, that actually brings me to an interesting question. So off topic. Um, the Archeans are considered tech or magic. Could they also be considered electricity? The electric elements. Even the Swap Force variants? Yes, I know. I've played all the games, clearly. Yes, all the Swap Force variants of Chompies. Okay, I need to get back on topic. This stream is going to have to end relatively soon. So, why the Armor Chompy is the water element in SkyO'Steen? I don't know. Wait, the Armor Chompy is in the water element? In SkyO'Steen? Stop distracting me. Oh, don't fuzzle me. Anyways, back on topic. So it'll have a level up. There are 3 different versions of the level 10 card. One for the top path, one for the bottom path, and one which will be the ultimate, which is both paths at the same time. The indicator for this will be on the upper part of the name. So it'll be the name, down here's the level, up here, right next to the name, is the path, if the card would have a path. Obviously, the level 5 cards don't have paths. It's only the level 10 ones, or the max level ones. The indicator for it won't just be top, bottom, ultimate. It's the actual name of the path in game. So, path name number 1, path name number 2, and then for the one with both paths, it would say ultimate. So, besides that, another thing to note, there will be an opaque casting cost right next to the name on the opposite side of the card in the top. So near the top left, as close as it can be without, overlapping some words. That is the level up cost. The reason it's opaque is so that it doesn't blend in too much. It makes it a very clear difference. So going below that, there's an image of what the card represents. Below that is the actual abilities, so the things that you activate on a creature card. I'm dying. So these abilities vary on what the card is, what it does, what the character actually did in game, and then what it actually does is an adaptation of that. So, as an example, let's say it's a Skylander card. So Skylander cards are always going to have 3 abilities, and then their bottom ability will always be when Soul Gem equipped. Soul Gem is an item card under the blank elements. Basically, you put this on a Skylander to activate the Skylander's Soul Gem effect. That's besides the point. So they'll always have the 3 attacks or 2 attacks and an ability, something along those lines. And then when Soul Gem equipped, ability at the bottom. With this all in mind, oh yes, I totally played Skylanders on the Wii, all the way up until Trap Team. Yeah. I even played Superchargers Racing on the Wii. I have all of them on the Wii. I have the games, right over here on the shelf, too. Look at him. Look at him. You see this? See this? These 2 are atrocities. These 3 are atrocities. But I have them. We usually finish. Yeah, I have the other. I have Imaginators and Superchargers on Xbox. The problem children of the series, in my opinion. I'm not gonna get into that. Stop distracting me. Anyways, so these abilities, it'll be the ability, however, name of the ability, however much damage it does, or what it activates. Then on the far side of the ability, so the ability reads from the left. On the right, there will be casting cost right next to the words. That's however many source fragments you need to tap to use that. Then all the way on the far right from the attack is an indicator, a symbol, either for close range, mid range, or long range. Close range is a chop sword. Mid range is a what's his name? Oh, I just had it. Night Shift. I think that's his name. Night Shift glove, boxing glove. And then long range is a bow. I'm pretty sure it's Bowslinger's bow. Bowslinger? Flameslinger's bow. Anyhow, continuing this, what we're actually going off of. So, close range, like I had already explained, you can only hit the base card on somebody else's grid. Something I would like to mention: the way the grid works, so this is the front, this is the bottom. If a card here is in the front, there's a card back here, and there's nothing in between. Can you hit the one in the back? The quick answer is yes, if you have a mid-range or long-range attacker. Actually, no. If you have a long-range attacker. I messed that up. So, there's a guy in front, which basically means you have to go around him. Even if there aren't guys around the guy in front, that doesn't matter because it goes by row. It goes by row. So the columns don't matter as far as just characters behind. And then the columns, they don't normally matter in attacking. It's mainly just the rows going down. So to answer that question real quick. But yeah, close range, you can only hit the front. Mid range, you can go around the front to hit the one behind that. In long range, you can go around two. So, yeah, that should fill out that whole kerfuffle. So now, going past that, when the soul gem equipped, so most abilities will have a trigger. The trigger is the first thing it says. So when soul gem equipped, when attacked, when whatever, that's the trigger. And then following that is the ability. The ability for when soul gem equipped, which is only on Skylanders, is basically a synopsis of what the soul gem ability, what their actual soul gem ability was, and those will most of the time they'll actually have two triggers. So when soul gem equipped, then when attacked. It's a double trigger sort of thing. But for other cards, for instance, let's say the Drow Spearman. The Drow Spearman's ability, when the Drow Spearman is attacking, if another Drow Spearman card is attacking this turn, Drow Spearman does extra damage. So basically, the reasoning between this is how Drow Spearmen tend to be pretty useless on their own, but if you have a group of them, and they all tend to attack at different intervals, it starts to be a bit treacherous. So following this in-game mechanic and threat that Drow Spearmen actually have, I sort of phase that into the game in some way. Most enemy creature cards will have abilities like this, which, well, they aren't always going to be effective or useful. They can be, and some of them can end up being really cool. So that's just something to keep in mind when using your cards. Speaking of which, enemy cards. Enemy cards also have ranges. They also have casting costs. They have casting costs for their attacks. They do not level up. They do not have level up costs. They do not have levels, and they do not have path indicators. It's just their name and their casting cost on the other side on the top, then an image, and then their attack or attacks. Most enemy cards will only have one attack, mind you. Some of them will have two attacks or an attack and an ability that you have to activate along with their ability. So there's something to note. Besides this, creature cards at the near bottom left. So I would like to explain. At the very bottom of a card is a darker colored zone. This zone is where you put the card ability. Above this, at the bottom left, is a quote. For Skylanders, it's going to be, their catchphrase. For most enemies, it's going to be the little info blob that shows up in Spiral's Adventure when you first encounter them. In other games, it'll be other quotes about them or other things about them, or if we can't find anything in the other games, come up with our own quotes to fit onto it. If that makes sense. Yeah. So, continuing off of this, on the right side of this is the health of the card. So, I would like to explain most attacks go by tens. Not most, all attacks go by tens on how much damage they do. Health does not go by tens. It's the legitimate values from the game. However, they basically act as if they're rounded up because if all the attacks are by tens, then, what have you. So while the card may be 345 health, that's basically the same as it being 350 health. Because it would take 35 intervals of 10 damage or, let's see, what would the math be? 35, 1. So 18 attacks of 20 damage intervals, 9 attacks of 30 damage intervals, so on and so forth. 5 attacks of 40 damage intervals. You can continue down the line until you're just doing 35 damage, period. Or 350 damage, period, not 35. If that makes sense. So then below this, as I just said, is a darker colored portion of the card. All creature cards will have an elemental alignment. You can tell this by the color of the card overall. The effect zone is a darker version of this color, generally. For the dark elements, it will actually be a lighter area for the sole reason that the dark element cards will be darker. They'll automatically have white text. So the effective area will actually be a brighter color with black text. While most of the time it's black text on the brighter color, and then the special area is darker colored with bright text. You disagree. What do you disagree with? What are we disagreeing upon? Searched, armored chompy, their water element, and Skylanders Battlecast, switch to earth element. They should still be life, in my opinion. I don't know if that's what you're disagreeing with, Skyworld, but personally, I would say that the armor chompy should still be life. Just for the sole reason, it's like a chompy, but it has armor. That shouldn't change the elements. It's just wearing something. And honestly, I don't think we, kind of side tangent, I don't think we should make the armored cards. Instead, we should have armor as a card that you put onto armored cards, which acts as like extra hit points that it absorbs. I don't know if that was what you were disagreeing with, Skyworld, but I'm assuming that is. That's besides the point. I keep getting so distracted. Well, we're coming close to this anyway. We're coming close to the end of this anyways. When a creature card's health drops to 0, that you would tag the health by, seeing as the attack damage goes by tens, you would tag this by numbers on a dice, or you could even reuse Pokemon damage counters if you wanted. Or magic damage counters. So sidetracked. Item cards. So item cards, most of the time, you play onto a card. So when a card equips them, most of the time, the general time, if it doesn't equip onto a card, it'll be a spell card, not a item card. We need a Dust Devil version of the Windbag. So like an Earth element sort of deal. That actually doesn't sound too bad. That makes sense. Okay, I need to pull this to a close. I'm on a time frame here. So to wrap this up, spell cards. Same sort of thing. Casting cost, spell ability. Item cards. Spell costs. Yes. Oh, spell. Casting cost. Item ability. When equipped. That sort of thing. And then area cards. This is something that needs a little bit more explaining. I'm going to explain it real quick. Slow down your video replay in order to understand this a bit better, if you need to, because I'm going to talk as fast as possible without stuttering over words. Basically, what the area of effect cards do is that when you play them, they activate an area of effect, so certain elements or card types will gain advantages and bonuses. I kind of slowed down near the end there, but I hope that all made sense. I had to end the stream now because I have company and things to do in the world that doesn't involve YouTube. So I will see all of you next stream on Monday. Hopefully Wednesday and Friday I will be posting actual videos and not live streams, because hiatus is over. There's actually the first video I'm going to be posting is Trap Team My Collection. I'm going to look a lot younger than I do right here. I'm going to look a little bit different. I'm probably going to sound a little bit different just because it was recorded right before hiatus and then I didn't have the time to edit it and release it in full before I got sick. But that's definitely something that needs to get released, and I don't feel like redoing it. The video after that is probably just going to be Superchargers My Collection as well, because I don't feel like recording games currently. However, the next time I do record games, it'll most likely be much better quality because I have a capture card now. That's the end of what I have to say. I hope I see you all next stream on Monday and in the videos that follow. I have been SkyO'Steen, and just remember, your adventure is only just beginning.